Good afternoon. I'm Tom McDonald at the Kauffman Foundation, and we're very pleased to have this event here this afternoon. So I'd like to thank you all for coming and welcoming you. Governor Nixon, since he took office in 2009, has been very concerned about the educational levels, educational credentials, and training that Missourians have to meet the ever-changing needs for businesses, for medical institutions and others to have the qualified individuals they need, and also for those individuals to have the career opportunities that can make them effective participants in our economy. Here at Kauffman, Mr. Kauffman had a goal to see people be economically independent, and he saw the roads to that being two roads that oftentimes converge, and that is the road to education, with an educational background that allows people to become productive members of society, but also opens up opportunities for them to be entrepreneurs, to start the businesses that not only will serve that individual and their families well, but will create economic growth that supports job growth and participation therein. Recently, at the State of the State address, Governor Nixon announced that he was going to go forward with the Western Governors University, Missouri, WGU. We'll see that logo here and be impressed with it as we go forward. And that's what we're here to announce today. And we're very pleased to have the governor here, but we're also particularly pleased to have Dr. Robert Mendenhall, who's come here for this event, and he is the president of the Western Governors University. This is going to be an extremely important incremental adjunct to the state's educational strategies, because what it will do in particular is engage those individuals who may have gone down a course of study for some period of time, may have some college credits already, but for one reason or another have had to step aside, either to pursue jobs in the short term or other activities. But the way Western Governors University is set up, it will allow those individuals not only to have credit for what they've done directly in academics, but it will produce a whole variety of courses from a wide range of sources to allow them to move forward at a pace that takes into account the experience that they've gained in life and the credentials that they probably have that are not represented in the short term by a specific certificate or a diploma. Allow them to bring all that together to achieve that degree that will allow them to step up to a more meaningful career, higher incomes, and therefore contribute to the state. So with that, this is, I can say, a very important day for Missouri, and I'd like you to help me welcome Governor Nixon, who will go into more detail about the program, Dr. Mendenhall's role, and how WGU will be kicked off in Missouri.
Thank you, Tom, and we appreciate your hosting us this afternoon and your deep commitment not only to the mission of Kauffman but also to this region for many years, and your leadership in this important time for the foundation is tremendously appreciated. I'd also like to thank area leaders from business, healthcare, and civics groups that are with us today. Chancellor Morton, it's always a pleasure to be with Missouri's #1 kangaroo. I know every time, I'm the only guy not wearing a kangaroo pin every time I'm with him, but it was an exciting, last week was very exciting, and some of the many things you're doing. We're here to take an exciting step forward in the evolution of higher education in Missouri with the establishment of WGU Missouri. Through an unprecedented partnership between the state of Missouri, Western Governors University, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, thousands of working Missourians will have a new option for earning an affordable college degree. That will help more Missourians get better jobs and meet their full earning potential, and that's good for Missouri businesses and for our economy. I cannot think of a more fitting place to mark this milestone. Since its inception, the Kauffman Foundation has understood the key role of higher education in driving innovation and entrepreneurship in every field, from banking to biotechnology. And higher education itself must become more innovative and entrepreneurial. Toward that end, the Kauffman Foundation continues to promote new initiatives to support one of my top priorities as governor, making higher education more affordable, more accessible, and more valuable in our global economy. I'll speak more about that in just a moment. But first, I'd like to introduce, to make some comments, the president of Western Governors University, Dr. Robert Mendenhall. Dr. Mendenhall is a nationally acclaimed innovator in higher education with more than 30 years of experience in developing technology-based education. Before joining WGU in 1999, that was the first year the WGU took students, he was general manager of IBM's K-12 education division, overseeing a $500 million worldwide business. Bob has served on the Spellings Commission on Future of Higher Education and recently was invited to the White House for a roundtable discussion with the president on college affordability. Kansas City, Missouri, please welcome Dr. Robert Mendenhall.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be in Missouri. We are excited about coming to this state and creating a WGU Missouri within the state and serving citizens in this great state. I have to say we began conversations with the governor's office maybe a year ago, and as I met the governor, within 5 minutes he got it. He got the concept and got the importance of it, and we're thrilled with his enthusiasm for it and the opportunity to work with him and with all of you in bringing this new educational option to the state of Missouri. WGU was created by 19 governors, really with the mission to expand affordable capacity in state higher education. So using technology both to expand access to higher education and to lower the cost of higher education. But the real innovation at WGU was what we call competency-based learning. That is, that we define on the front end what we expect graduates to know and be able to do. And we develop assessments, tests to measure those skills and abilities. And when students demonstrate they have all the competencies, they graduate, independent of how long they spent in the seat in the classroom. So rather than have set semesters of 4 months and set courses, students bring the competencies they have, they demonstrate what they know, they spend their time learning what they don't know, and graduate when they've mastered all of the competencies. The result of that is that our tuition, we're, first of all, a private nonprofit university. We generally don't require ongoing state funding. We're self-sustaining on tuition of $6,000 for a year, for a 12-month year. We haven't raised tuitions for 5 years, which is unusual in higher ed, and hope to keep it as flat as we can going forward to allow more opportunity for adults to have this education. It's particularly relevant for working adults. The average age of our student is 37. 75% of them would be considered underserved, either first generation in their family to go to college, low income, minority, rural students that don't have access to higher education. And as the governor mentioned, we really were focused, because we were created by governors, on workforce development. So we do just bachelor's and master's degrees in just 4 areas: business, IT, teacher education, particularly math and science teachers, and healthcare, including nursing. So obviously, degrees that lead directly to current needs in the workforce. Our plans for WGU Missouri, we have students today in all 50 states. We're nearly 40,000 students across the United States, still growing about 30% a year. So we have about 450 students in Missouri, about 260 alumni in the state. But as we set up a state-based university, we intend to really expand our efforts in the state in partnership with the state. So we'll hire a chancellor for WGU Missouri who will reside here and be full-time in serving the students and alumni and the employer community in the state. We'll put together an advisory board of state leaders to advise us on the uniqueness of Missouri and the needs in this particular state. And we'll be hiring faculty and enrollment people and others to staff WGU Missouri. So we look forward to the opportunity of working in the state. We think we'll make a real difference in the lives of older working adults who need to come back and get additional education to be qualified for the jobs of the future. There's about 750,000 adults in Missouri with some college and no degree. That's about 23% of the entire workforce in the state. They intend to be working for a long time. And so to get them some additional education and prepare them for the jobs of the future is the mission that we're excited about and that drives us every day. So thank you, Governor, for the opportunity to be here. Thank you all very much.
There's no better investment in our future than education. There's no better economic development tool than education. Because we know that job prospects, lifetime earnings, and even civic engagement are tied directly to education. And as we have just heard from President Mendenhall, as we all know, education, especially for folks after they've gone on, after they're a little older, after they've started families, is incredibly challenging to access. We believe that WGU will provide a separate bandwidth that gives these students, these adult students, an opportunity to assess that and access that at their own time and at their own pace. And so our productivity and economic growth are very, very important. In my first term as governor, I set an ambitious goal of increasing the number of Missourians with degrees or certificates from 37% when I was sworn in at the beginning of my first term to 60%. We wanted to keep the dream of a college education within reach for all Missouri families, and on my watch, Missouri has led the nation in holding down the cost of college tuition. We made it our mission to help high school students graduate, go to college, complete their degrees, and enter the workforce. And our colleges and universities are doing an incredible job, graduating more students than ever before. That's the traditional path, and I'm glad more students are taking it. We want more students graduating high school, going on to community college, going on to college right there at that time of their life. But the cost of college is still out of reach for too many Missouri families, and oftentimes folks take a different path in their lives. As was mentioned by Dr. Mendenhall, today there are nearly 750,000 Missourians who started college but never completed their degrees. They left school, got jobs, started families, moved on with their lives. Many of them want to get back to complete their degrees, but haven't. Often, that's because they believe that college is too expensive or just too hard to juggle with work or raising kids. Starting this spring, WGU Missouri will provide these adult students with a new option for finishing the degrees they started years ago. WGU Missouri will offer more than 50 bachelor's, master's, and post-baccalaureate degree programs in 4 key areas Missouri employers are looking for: business, IT, teaching, and healthcare. These programs are designed to meet the needs of real people with real lives in a way that is flexible and affordable. Instead of paying tuition by the credit hour, students can take as much coursework as they want at the flat rate. And how quickly they earn their degrees depends on how quickly they master the subject matter and advancing at their own pace. In addition, students at WGU Missouri will be eligible to apply for state financial aid. WGU Missouri will receive a community development block grant of up to $4 million for startup and costs so it can begin operation in our state. In addition, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has provided $750,000 grant to support the startup of WGU Missouri. Now, after startup, WGU Missouri will be self-sustaining through tuition of about $6,000 a year. It will require no ongoing funding from the state. The point is that with today's technology, we can make it easier than ever for folks to finish their degrees without disrupting their lives and help them move up the economic ladder. We'll also be helping employers, including many here today, to find the skilled workers they need to expand their businesses, increase their productivity, and become more competitive in a global marketplace. I would also note, for those that to prompt or to block Mahoney's first question, it is the WGU Missouri Night Owls is who they are. So we're not taking the kangaroos, we're not taking the tigers, and so we will look forward to that apropos mascot helping us lead folks at night back to their education. So now, President Mendenhall, if you'll join me, we will sign a memorandum of understanding establishing WGU Missouri. Then I'll sign Executive Order 1304, making the authorization from the state level. Then we'll both of us come back and be glad to take any questions from the press. If you would join me.
Welcome to the show.
All right, we'll be glad to take any questions that press may have.
It sounds like this could be a serious rival for, say, UMKC, SLU, that sort of thing, where they really are commuter colleges and they do market to people that are trying to either expand or complete their education.
This I'll let Dr. Mendenhall speak in a second, but no, we clearly do not see this as competing in the bandwidth of the UMKCR community colleges. I think there is some close alignment with the community colleges because they deal with non-traditional students in many situations. But the limited degree programs, the specificity, and the target to folks that oftentimes don't have the capacity to come to a campus, the most difficult students to reach are ones, and quite frankly, Bob can talk about it, but we see this as an enhancement of the missions of incredibly fine, outstanding institutions like UMKC and others, but I'll let Bob answer that.
That's really been our experience in other states, that our students tend to say we just wouldn't be going to college at all if it wasn't for a WGU option that allows us to do this at midnight to 2 a.m. Every morning and do our studies after work and putting the kids to bed and so on. So inevitably there's a 1% or 2% an opportunity for students who otherwise wouldn't access higher education to choose this option.
How long does it take to get a degree? You got an average on it.
So the average to get a bachelor's degree at WGU is 35 months. So just under 3 years compared to 5 years nationally. There's two reasons for that. Our students generally have some college when they come, so on average they transfer in 28 credit hours. But the big reason for that is this competency-based education model, which basically recognizes that adults come to higher ed knowing different things, and we each learn at different rates. So rather than saying every class takes 4 months, we essentially say demonstrate what you know, spend your time learning what you don't know, and when you've mastered the content, you graduate.
So if a guy, for instance, was in the pull tab business, I don't know if you know what that is, but and he'd been there for 30 years, didn't get a training.
Well, we don't do, for example, credit assessment up front and give them credit for courses. We define the competencies for a graduate. We have the test to measure those competencies, even someone who had never run a business at all. Still has to take the same test, may need less time to prepare for the test.
And Mike, back to your first question, I think it's apropos to the whole theory of what we're trying to get done here at all levels of education in our state. We want more kids going to preschool. We want the school year for K through 12 to be longer. We want to have additional rigor in our colleges. We want to have options for every type of student. The future is going to be won by the educated. When you look at the long-term trends, while the problems we face right now may be, from a statistical perspective, unemployment, clearly the longer-term challenges are making sure that you have a trained workforce for the jobs of tomorrow. So we want to have a full menu of options. Because when you're talking about going from a state in which 37% of your students, of your adults, have a 2-year certification or a degree to 60%, that's a whole lot of people. And if we're going to make the jump forward here to embrace education as an economic development value, we need every tool in the toolbox working. And this gives us another tool which has been proven to work, which has operated very well. I mean, we had good, solid discussions beforehand with all of our 4-year institutions, all of our 2-year institutions, to make sure as we work through the processes here that everything was in alliance and in alignment. But I think that the ultimate thing for Missourians, quite frankly, for Americans to hear, is that we got to educate ourselves to the future. I mean, we are, there's folks working really, really hard. I'll take a question in a second, but I'll tell you how committed I am to this. 2 weeks ago, I made a speech at Canton Schools. Okay, 538 kids from kindergarten to seniors in high school, and an assembly, all 538 there, and I gave to them a speech about how the school year needs to be lengthened. I did not get very much applause from the students about that. But the point I make there is it's very clear that the additional rigor, additional time, additional options, we need to have every tool in the educational tool chest on the field for the future of the state, this region, and our country.
Hey, Dr. Mendenhall, just on your literature here, the states in the black, can I assume that those were your original states because that's where you got the most students?
No. The 19 governors, there was the 19 sort of western states from Hawaii to Indiana. But you know, some states have embraced this a little more than others. There may be other reasons why those states tend to be a little bit bigger. In a couple of those states, we have formed a state-based WGU like we're going to do now in WGU Missouri. So in Indiana and Washington are bigger because we have these state-based universities there.
Yeah, the state was, one of the models we looked at very clearly was Indiana. I mean, when Governor Daniels moved forward on this a few years ago, you saw a significant jump there, and it was embraced by the state. And now, you know, we figured if, I don't want to speak negative of any state, but
Go ahead.
if 3,000 Hoosiers can do it, you know, it'd be stunning what we can do in the Show Me State. 3,000, but no, the point is, Governor Daniels is a very respected fellow. Obviously, now he's president of Purdue University and a very capable fellow. And he and I have had, you know, we looked very carefully at that state-based model and what Dr. Mendenhall, his team, were able to do, what Governor Daniels and the leaders of his state were able to do, working with the business community. And I think it fits a solid niche for us here in the Show Me State. But these additional states that are coming online to form additional ones, like Texas, like Washington, like Indiana, are a template for the next generation of WGU, in my view, as a governor, talking to fellow governors. And I think you're going to see other states also be very interested. I don't want to speak for other states, but other than to say that you're going to see, I think, other states come forward in this bandwidth also. Anybody? Yes.
I have a question about the mix of face-to-face courses versus online courses.
So in essence, all of our courses are online. So we deliver everything online. We have changed the faculty model because of the online model. So most online education in the country is classroom education distributed over wire. So it's still a professor giving lectures and the students submitting the same assignments, the professor grading the assignments. In our case, because every student is in a different place, they're really going through computer-based modular curricula that works them through the topics. But every student who starts at WGU gets a faculty mentor the day they start who stays with them until the day they graduate. And they talk every week. Could go to every other week if they're doing really well. And then every course that they enter into, there's a faculty mentor for that course that mentors them through the subject matter. But it's one-on-many, but really not face-to-face. I always have to qualify that. We do teacher education. Our teachers do student teaching in a classroom with a host teacher, with a clinical supervisor. Our nurses do clinical rotations in hospitals. So certainly some of their experience is face-to-face, but the coursework is all online.
Well, 1999 as the leader of this growing, important piece, and we are very proud in the Show Me State to now be members of WGU and be as branded specifically as WGU Missouri. Thank you very much.